Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Jeff's baking blog. Today I'm making apple squares or apple bars, and that is 2 layers of pastry with some apple in between them, cut into squares or bars. It's quite a simple recipe and doesn't take too long, but you do have to wait for the pastry to chill a little bit. So for the ingredients, I have 500 grams of plain flour. That's the equivalent of 4 cups. I have 250 grams of softened butter, unsalted, and that is 2 sticks plus 1.5 tablespoons. I have 2 medium eggs, which would be large in the USA, 100 grams of icing sugar, and that works out at about 3/4 of a cup plus a tablespoon. I have a teaspoon of baking powder, and I have 45 millilitres, 3 tablespoons of milk. I may not need all of the milk. That's for the pastry, and I'll just put some of those to one side for a minute to show you the other ingredients. I have here 1 kilogram, which is 2.2 pounds, just under 2.25 pounds, of apples which I have peeled and grated. These are Cox's apples, but you can use whichever apples you prefer. And I haven't squeezed any juice out of those. I have 100 grams, which is half a cup, of caster sugar, a teaspoon of cinnamon powder. You could use grated nutmeg if you wanted to, but not quite a teaspoon, I wouldn't think. And I also have 1 packet of vanilla pudding mix. So that's for the apple filling. I also have an oven tray, which is about 35 centimetres by 25 centimetres. This is just maybe a little bit smaller than that, but about that. And that would work out at 14 inches by 10 inches. And I have lined that, I've greased it and lined it with parchment paper. So the first thing to do is to make our pastry, and I'm going to put into my flour the baking powder and the icing sugar, and I'm just going to give that a bit of a stir around. Like that. And then I'm going to drop my eggs in. I'm just going to bash those to break up the yolks, make it easier. And then I'm going to put my butter in as well. And with all those ingredients in, I'm simply going to mix them. You could do this with your hand, but I'm going to use my hand mixer. And I'm going to mix those until they come together into a dough. I may use my hand towards the end. So as you can see, that's clumping together, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my hand just to knead that a little bit to get it to form into a dough. Because I want to make sure that the butter is evenly spread throughout. So that's mixed well enough. And what I'm going to do with that is to divide that into two. About equal parts, and I'm going to form each one into a rectangle like that, and I'm going to wrap those in plastic wrap and put them into the fridge and chill them for about 30 minutes. After 30 minutes I will put my oven on to preheat to 180 Celsius, that's 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit, and I'll come back and we'll roll out the pastry and mix the other ingredients. It's been about 30 minutes and I'm still chilling the dough, but I thought I would mix the apple ingredients. The first thing I need to tell you though is that you may have noticed I didn't put my milk into the pastry dough when I was making it, and that's because it didn't need it. It depends sometimes on how absorbent the flour can be, but my dough came together quite nicely without the milk, so I didn't need that at all, so I can put that to one side. So for the apple ingredients, I have my grated apple here, and what I'm going to do is to pour into that my pudding mixture. Now, the other thing I ought to say is if you don't have pudding mixture, you could use custard powder, or you could use, in the UK we have something called blancmange, so you could use a vanilla blancmange, or even probably a vanilla Angel Delight mixture. So that's my vanilla and my icing sugar and my ground cinnamon, and I'm simply going to mix that all together. I'll use a fork to start with, and then maybe I'll get my hand in there if I think I need it. No, I don't need it, I don't think. So I'll put that to one side again, and we'll roll out the pastry. So for the first piece of pastry, I'm going to coat it with flour, and I have floured my surface as well. I'm going to roll this out into a rectangle which is at least 1.5 inches, maybe 4 centimeters larger than the base of my tin. And if it's not exactly fitting, it doesn't matter, because you can patch this pastry quite easily. And then once it's rolled, I'm going to carefully put that onto my rolling pin. And put that into my prepared tin. and I want it to come up the sides. Like that, and I'm going to patch it where I have lower amounts. Just like that. And then I'm going to put the apple mixture in. And spread that around. Like that. Trying to make it all right. There's trying to make it as level as I can get it. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to just fold the pastry down onto the top. And you can, if you have too much, you can take some off, because you don't want it to be too thick, this little layer here. And that's then ready to take the other piece of pastry, which we will roll out now. So we roll that out the same, but it doesn't need to be quite so wide, or long should I say, and that's good. So I'm actually just going to trim this a little bit. Just check this again. And then roll that on. And try to drop that into the tin. like that. I'm going to press that down. And patch any bits that might need it. Like that. And I'm then going to take a fork and I'm going to prick the top. Like that, and I'm going to put that into my preheated oven and I'm going to bake it for between 30 and 45 minutes. I'll check it after 30 minutes and see how the top has browned. I may leave it a little bit longer, I may take it out, but once I've taken it out I'll let it cool down completely and then I'll come back and show you the results. I baked our apple pie bars for a full 45 minutes. And then I took it out of the oven and allowed it to cool down. It's still a little bit warm, but I've taken it out of the tin and I've cut a couple of bars. So this is what it looks like. And I've already eaten one bar, but I'm going to have a taste of another one. So it's nice and full of apple. If anything, you could cut down on the amount of apple, I think, but I like it like this. It is very, very good. It's got just a hint of the cinnamon and the sweetness of the apple, and then that lovely buttery pastry as well. So this is a very good recipe, I think. And that's going to be it for today. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to this recipe, and I'll also put a link for it below the video as well. And I will be back with another recipe in the very near future, so until then, happy baking.